everyone should be seeing my slideshow now. Somebody confirm that you're seeing my slideshow, please.
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you, Courtney. All right. So welcome to our Torus community meeting for December 6th. Before we get any further, I just always like to have a moment of looking at our working product vision, which is transforming higher education through the science of learning. This is what we're all working towards with Torus. And our agenda is pretty short today, but both of these things are kind of are going to be a little bit beefy. So that's why I wanted to get through. I wanted us to get started. First, I'm going to do a demo of Torus version 29, which is scheduled to be released next week, not next week, the week after, a little less than 2 weeks on December 19th. And then I'm going to do a feature demo of activity banks, which was requested by the attendees of last month's Torus community meeting. Both of these are relatively informal demos. If you see something, if you have a question, you can ask me. If you think it's really specific to you and your use case, maybe wait till the end, and I'm happy to stay and kind of chat with folks at the end about their more specific questions. Or of course, we can always set up another time if you'd rather do that. But if you have something that you think might be of interest to the group, please do ask a question or yell it out. With that, let's get started with our demo. So I cannot possibly demo everything that is in Torus version 29. So I'm going to focus on our roadmap items, which I have listed on the left of this slide. And then I pulled out a couple of specific things that I think are of interest to people that I put on the right side. I also want to emphasize before I get into it that this, like, we squashed a lot of bugs in version 29. We had really started building up a backlog of bugs, and that's obviously not good. And we wanted to start really making some progress there. So as of right now, I have a count of 124 bugs. I actually think that might be an underestimate because I was looking and some of the things that are stories, which are like new features, I actually think are bugs. But for context, we've had entire releases where we've had fewer than 124 tickets total, bugs and feature requests. And so 124 is huge. And that is a huge credit to our wonderful development team. I'm not going to demo bugs just because that's boring to demo. That's like, hey, look at this thing that works exactly how you would expect it. But when the release notes come out, which will come out with the release on December 19th, that will be a complete list of every bug and every feature, like every single ticket that's in the release. So you will be able to see what all of these wonderful bug fixes are. Before I hop over into my browser, then I will talk a little bit about the first roadmap item. We actually call these larger roadmap sets of features. They're called epics, so I'll use that, and hopefully that's not confusing. The first epic is account type navigation. You're going to immediately see a difference when I go over to the browser. The reason is we do have some confusion up through version 28 and previous versions where users just aren't sure like where they're supposed to be logging in, or if they have different roles. Maybe you're an instructor and a student, or you're an author and an instructor. Like, what are they logged in as? I think that there's been confusion about this. In particular, we get a lot of students who try to log in to the authoring interface because up through version 28, then when you just go to direct delivery for Torus, the first website you get to is the author login. So students just try to log in there, and of course they can't log in, and that's confusing. So Jess has really done an amazing job of making a big improvement in version 29 to help folks understand where they're logged in and what type of account they're logged in as. So let's get into that. Oh, I have to exit the screen. No, that's the wrong way. This way. So the first thing I want folks to notice, especially if you are usually logging into the authoring interface, is that when you just navigate to Torus, this is our staging environment. Of course, this is because we haven't released version 29 yet, but this is what you will see after our release when you go to our main environment, which is called Proton. Normally in the past, you've by default gone to the authoring login. Now we're defaulting to the student. And generally our users, in terms of their level of expertise with Torus, the students are the least expert, then the instructors, then the authors. So having the students be the default, so they don't know that they don't need to know to click anything. They just go to the website and they log in. I think that's a better user experience for them. That said, if you are usually logging into the authoring interface, as I am fairly sure you're going to have times where you come to this page and you're not thinking and you try to log in here and that it tells you that's not the right login and you're like, what? And hopefully at that point you'll say, oh, I need to click here for course authors. But you'll also see that Jess has made this kind of nice color scheme so that it's a little bit easier, hopefully, for folks to kind of tell what login page you're on. We have this like yellow and blue color scheme if you're a student. If you're an instructor, you get this blue and green. And then if you're a course author, then you get this lovely purple and blue. So hopefully that will help folks remember what the page is supposed to look like when you're logging in. I am first going to log in with just my default account, which is an admin, just because I want to show a couple of admin things. I don't want to change my password. So the first thing that you'll notice is we have this nice workspace nav bar over here, course author, instructor, student. If you have an admin account only, in a moment I'm going to log out and log back in with an account that is only an author, not an admin. But if you're an admin, when you go here, we actually right now, for reasons I won't get into, we don't support you having an admin account and also instructor and student. So if you go to instructor, it's going to tell you you have to log out and log back in with an instructor account, same for student. If you're an admin, you're also going to notice that normally you have a link over here that says admin, and that's how you get to the admin console. That's not here anymore. If you want to go to that, you go here. I'm not actually going to click into it. I'm not demoing any admin stuff today, but this is where, okay, I'll just click on it to show. Then you're getting back to your regular admin panel. That's really all I had to show in the admin interface. So if you have any admin questions, now's a good time to ask. All right, I'm going to sign out, and now I'm going to sign in with a different account that is only an instructor, not an admin. Oh, I just did like exactly the thing I told you guys that I keep doing. I have to go to the course author. Which I don't mind, honestly, if it makes the students have an easier time logging in. I'll get it eventually. All right, so here I'm logged in as an author only account. You'll notice up here, I don't have that admin panel anymore. And also when I go to instructor, so I can log in here with an instructor account. I don't automatically, I'm not logged in as an instructor because I logged in as an author, but now I have that option. And if I did that, and I'll do that in a moment, you'll see that I can kind of seamlessly go back and forth between these accounts. But before I do anything instructor, I'm going to show you a couple of things in the authoring interface. So I'm going to go back to my list here. We just talked about account type navigation. The next thing I want to talk about are quiz features. We had two main quiz features that we were able to make into version 29 that I'll show you. They are one question at a time and question copying. Some of you may be aware we had a third that we were trying to squeeze in. It was a bulk import of questions that I know some folks are waiting for. That didn't make it under the line. It's actually under development right now. So barring something going wrong, it will be that bulk import of questions will be in version 30, but it didn't make the cutoff for version 29. So one question at a time, I'm going to click into my AI generated purple unicorns I made for version 28. One question at a time is exactly what it sounds like. It's the capability of having an assessment where instead of seeing a page with all of the questions, the student is going to see the first question, then they can submit that, go to the second question, and so forth. They're going to see one question at a time. I do have one of these set up for when I get to the student interface, so you can see what that looks like. The main thing I want to show you in the authoring interface is just how you would make it, and it's pretty simple. I'm going to go to my curriculum. I have this unicorn final exam here. If I go to my options, scroll down to presentation, it's this simple. I already have this saved. The default is going to be this traditional show all content and questions at once. I've selected for this one to be, a one at a time. So we'll see that. I'm going to save, even though I haven't actually changed anything. I had that set up already. And when we get to the student, I'll show it to you. I do want to say if anyone's putting questions in the chat, I am not looking at the chat. So please speak up and I will answer your question. All right, the other
Amanda, question. So on the one question at a time, is it like a homework system in that they get feedback when they submit one question at a time, or do they have to go through all the questions and then submit?
They get the feedback right away, and I will show you that when we go through in the student interface.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. All right, for question copying, I'm going to go into this page. I know this is something that folks have been asking for, and we can all thank Anders. Anders is the one who got this in under the line. So thank you very much for doing that. When I go down, I'm just going to see here I have a question. Now I have this little icon to copy. It says duplicate this activity. I'm saying question copying, it's activity. I always say question when I mean activity. If I were to hit this, it's just going to make a copy. So an exact copy, I can then edit it as much as I want. I'm not actually going to leave this in here, but
I have a question.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in Legacy, I think this was slightly unintended, so I understand if this does not work, but you were able to open two different courses and press copy on one course and paste on another course. Would that be possible here? I just realized there's no paste function, so I answered my own question.
So I will tell you that I don't remember between courses, but we did have a ticket for between pages that is a paste. That again, this is something that Anders heroically did for us towards the end when we realized we weren't going to be able to fit it in. So he did a really simple implementation of it. I do think that's something that is queued up for at some point in the future. I can't tell you exactly when that's happening though.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, if I can clarify, I tend to use the word duplicate rather than copy, because copy suggests copy and paste, and right now it's just duplicate in place. In the activity bank or also on a page, you can duplicate it, and that's useful, especially useful if you're in the activity bank and you want to make 3 varieties of the same question. You want to typically start by copying one. It could be a very involved question, and then you have a template that you can edit for the second one. But it's useful as it is, but it's not the full copy paste.
Yeah.
So
we will
move them to other pages yet?
Not yet, no. What I showed you is what it can do. It does the same thing in the activity bank.
Okay.
But what you just saw is what the feature is for right now. All right. So that's our quiz features. And that is it for the roadmap items in the authoring interface. I had a couple other things I wanted to show that are just kind of one-off tickets. They're not part of roadmap things. I think to make it the easiest to show this first one, I'm just going to go kind of deep down into our hierarchy here, going down a module, a section, and here's a page. So these up here are called breadcrumbs. It's showing you where this page is in the hierarchy. So not only do you have that sense when you're looking at the page of where is it, you can also click any of these to actually go to that. And right now, of course, because I'm doing a live demo, this is being slow. But yeah. And then I can go back. So I think that's a nice little feature just so that authors have a better sense of where they are and how to navigate through. The other little one-off thing I wanted to show has to do with the publication process. So if I go into publish here, we have this checkbox here that says automatically push this publication update to all products and sections. So generally this defaults to being off, but the feature is that this is sticky. So if I check this, it's going to stay checked. If I uncheck it, it's going to stay unchecked. And I think this is in response to some of our courses, particularly large courses with a lot of sections. If you forget to check this checkbox and then you publish, you cannot go back and automatically push all the updates to all of your products and sections. What you have to do is get every instructor of every section to go, and every product, you have to go and like accept the changes. And especially if you have a lot of sections with many different instructors, that's very cumbersome. So this is just to make that a little bit easier. If generally your practice when you make these changes is that you do push it through to all of your products and sections, that will stay. And you don't have to remember to check that.
That is fantastic because the little bug that would make it disappear when you started to do something is how it was happening. And I know most folks don't have over 80 course sections, but when you have to go in one at a time and update them because instructors won't do it, otherwise it's pain. So yay.
Yay. All right. I'm not actually going to publish. I just wanted to talk about that. That is everything I had in the authoring interface. So if folks have authoring questions, now is a good time before I move on to instructor. All right. I can go back if you think of a question later. So again, right now I'm not logged in.
Can you wait? I forget if this is authoring or the thing that we were talking about yesterday. Was it the never
outline
mind,
view?
That was instructor view, wasn't that?
That's in the student view. So I'll definitely get to that.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to log in as an instructor. Oh. I just used the wrong, because it knows I'm doing a demo. Hooray, okay. So I already have, I'm already an instructor for this course section. I'm just gonna click in. Going back to my list here. So from general UX improvements for the instructor interface, we really have two main things. I'm gonna demonstrate our Likert visualization and our proficiency graphic. And then I have one little thing to show that's a one-off ticket. I think I'm going to start with the little one-off ticket. Oh, oops, again, I went to my student interface. So here in my instructor interface, I'm in my Manage tab, which is the default tab when I come in here. And previously, then in the product, you could set that cover image. And if you remember from when I just clicked in, it's this beautiful image of a rock and roll unicorn, but then you couldn't change that at the section level. And not only was this, something that some instructors wanted to change, but also you had an issue where once the section was launched, if there was a problem with that image where maybe it made things difficult, like maybe an image was picked where it made it difficult to read the text, or or there was a problem when it actually showed up, there was literally no way to change that. And that so aside from this being an aesthetic thing, it actually could create a problem where there was confusion for students if the image kind of obscured something. So now we just have a nice feature where I can go and change that image at the section level. So if I want this to be, where's my image? This other unicorn rocker, I can just do that. And now this is, save this. So then I want to go into my two, instructor UX features. The first one has to do with our Likert. So if I go into Insights, I already set up a survey with a Likert, and I only had 2 students do it. So this isn't going to be as beautiful as it could be, but we have this visualization. So we can see our questions here. If you can't see the whole question, you can just roll over. You can roll over. There we go. And see the entire question. I don't know why that's not working up here. It literally was working when I was practicing for this, and now it's not. But in general, you can roll over at, oh, it's not because you can see the whole thing. Unicorns make the best friends. That's why. It just does this if you can't see the whole question. Then we have our items on the Likert scale. We have this legend where, depending on how many students picked this, we have a different size ball. In this case, I just have 2 students, so all the balls are the same size. If I roll over, I can see this is the rating for that. And there was 1 person who did this out of 2 who answered.
Yeah, so one thing we talked about back when you were doing this a couple months ago was the fact that you can't tell the different sizes of the balls when they're in the Likert, and you were gonna put the number in or something.
Yeah, so you can see this is 1 out of 2.
So you have to roll over it.
You have to roll over it, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so they have a limited ability because this is a Vega Light visualization. I mean, if they were building something from scratch, it would have taken a huge amount more work. They couldn't just make it so that it was there. Like this is kind of the nice thing that they were able to do in the time frame to make it.
I don't understand the 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1.0.
I actually don't get that either, and I didn't see that when we were testing. They
Mío,
should
se me dio el hombre. Wow.
What? I'm sorry.
I
Okay.
think that was an accidental.
Okay. So because I have limited data here, I did have the Vega Light visualization of this, and it should kind of look like this, where if you have a bunch of responses, you have these little ones and bigger ones and this. So I suspect this is something that might be happening because I'm doing a live demo and I've messed something up, but I can go back and check it. It shouldn't have, it should be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it shouldn't be percentages. I actually think it might be doing this because I only have 1. I think that when we were QAing, then it might be like 1, 2, like we had more data and it actually looked nicer. So I think this might be something that shows up this way because 1 is the only number, and then it's like making up these other ball sizes.
Maybe I can get in that course and make some more so we can just take a look at it. Or if you have a version, I'd love to see it, because this is kind of a big thing and we're kind of limited based on the fact that we're using the already coded Likert. So
I'm happy to do that with you. I'm fairly like positive based on how we did this in QA that once we actually have different numbers of responses, this is going to go away. Like once we have 2 and 3, like it's not going to be this.
do you know why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has different point sizes in the numbers? Like 4 is really small. I think 1 is too.
4 is really small.
At the bottom. Yeah, on your x-axis. Axes or bottom, whatever.
You think that 4 is smaller? Like they look the same size to me.
Really? 4 looks a lot smaller. Is there any way to make that a little bit bigger in general?
I
guess I don't know what's going to happen when what if you have 852 students? Is it going to be 852 along the bottom?
So this is based on the number of
Oh, this is the Likert scale. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
this is the actual Likert.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So this is never going to change. It would just be like you would have many different numbers of circles. I am definitely happy to play around with this and kind of show you what it looks like with more data. I actually think that this looks like something that we need to fix, but it probably is only happening because I only have 1 as the max, which is probably not going to happen very often in real life. But yeah, definitely happy to talk to you about it more.
Okay, great. Because some of these are, yeah, great. Thank you. I don't want to take any more time. Thanks.
All right, my other visualization is in learning objectives. It also doesn't show up as nicely because I only have 2 students worth of data, but I have this visualization of proficiency. And I have some areas where the students haven't gone at all, so we don't really see what it looks like. But here's an example where we have one student at 50%, or one of my 2 students is at low proficiency. The other 50% is at medium. So we're kind of seeing this quick visualization of what the proficiency looks like for this learning objective. And of course, if I wanted to see, you know, the students, yeah, I can actually go in and kind of drill in for the specific students here and like see more specifically what their learning proficiency looks like in different areas. So that is all I had to show in the instructor interface. If folks have questions about the instructor interface, then you can let me know. Otherwise, we can move on and I will show you the student stuff.
I have a question. I know there are some behind the scenes things that aren't really demonstratable, where large classes are crashing when you go into instructor data, or you get the timeout all the time. Is that stuff been fixed?
So I would have to talk to Darren about what specific things have been fixed. He's been working on our data warehousing, and you're right, I'm not demonstrating that because you know, we don't have specific new features to show. I know certainly in the authoring interface, we're seeing things that are moving faster and crashing less because of that. I haven't specifically spoken to him about the instructor interface, but we can definitely ask. And also the work that he's doing on that isn't necessarily tied to the Torus code base, which means that as he works on improving the data warehouse, we actually can start seeing improvements like in the middle of a release cycle, depending on what it is. Like some things do need a code change, but this is something that is just continually kind of getting better as time goes on. So we can certainly have a conversation with him about that instructor issue and like whether that's already something that has relief or if not, when.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I know all of the dashboard stuff has been getting jammed up, that and the home screen. If you check the home screen, I think that got fixed too, right?
I like did not refamiliarize myself with the data warehousing stuff, Kim. Sorry. Like I can definitely catch you up on that once you know, or you and I can consult Darren together, or I can report to you.
Okay, great. Thank you again. Sorry, it's
Oh, that's all right.
not something you can really demo unless you have a class of 800 students or something.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so looking at our student stuff, I'm going to be talking about some improvements in determining student progress, and then I have a couple of one-off tickets I want to talk about.
I'm listening to, not participating.
It's gonna. All right, so I already have, so I'm not actually going to show this next one in the same interface I was showing with, you know, the different workspaces, because that instructor account does have a student account, but it's not a student of this course. So I'm going to go to this other browser tab where I have a student who's already enrolled in this AI generated purple unicorns. The first thing I want to talk about that should be apparent here is one of the one-off tickets, and you're going to notice that something I've deliberately done for this course section is nothing on it is scheduled. And the reason that I didn't schedule anything is that when we first did the NG, the new student interface, we didn't really give as much thought. I'm just gonna mea culpa this. We didn't give as much thought to our unscheduled classes, our classes where students are kind of going through at their own pace, as we did to the scheduled classes. So we really didn't have the best user experience for those users, particularly with respect to this homepage, which was pretty empty for anything that wasn't scheduled. So what we've done now is we've essentially made some assumptions around assignments and agenda, where if things aren't scheduled, we just kind of put them up here in chronological order. So even though none of these things are scheduled, we're seeing the next several assignments, the next 3 assignments, we're seeing the next, I think, 6, or maybe these are 5 items in the agenda that are just like chronologically what's in the curriculum, even though we don't have any due dates for any of these things. So I think, I mean, this is a small change, and we definitely have more planned. One thing I will point out that is kind of annoying to all of us, and we are going to fix it, though it didn't get in version 29, is we have this not yet scheduled everywhere. which I think is confusing for students of unscheduled classes if it's never going to be scheduled. Like, you know, you just see not yet scheduled everywhere. I promise that we are fixing that. Unfortunately, we didn't get it under the wire for version 29, but hopefully this is already a little bit better for those students. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the roadmap epic that Jess worked on for student progress. I know that some of our students want more feedback and were having some confusion around if they weren't really getting full progress, like what exactly does that mean? What courses, how is progress calculated, that sort of thing. So we have a couple of new features here. In particular, if we look at our course progress block here, we can see how many pages are completed. We also have this nice information icon. If you roll over it, it's going to show you, you know, some basic information about how progress is calculated. But if I click on this learn more, I get even more information and you know, about how progress is calculated so that students can understand better what goes into that 45%. And then if I click on this view all assignments or this 5 out of 11 pages completed, both of these are going to take me to the learn page where there is more information around, you know, what is completed. I can get that information here in our gallery view, which is the default, but we also have made some updates to the outline view. And I know that is what Caitlin was bringing up around, you know, being able to kind of see you know, what here is completed and what isn't.
Can we get a collapse all and open all on this, just even as a default? I mean, obviously more filtering would be nice, but I realize that would be too much, but even a on off button here.
I think that we can. I don't, since I'm sharing my screen right now, I can't make a note, but if somebody files a ticket for it, or if I remember to file a ticket for it after this meeting, that is something that we can put in queue.
That would be great because it right now you can't do a search on this page unless it's open.
So that actually is an oversight, and I know this has been brought up. I think yesterday or the day before we were having conversations around this. That was just an oversight that this outline view used to be searchable, and the way it was implemented, it wasn't implemented to be fully searchable. So that is something that we're fixing. Jess has already made a story for it. We just need to implement that. But you're right, this isn't fully searchable, especially in this collapsed form.
Yeah, kind of basically now what you have to do is you have to go to the schedule, which to me was kind of just a duplicate of this in a way, where you have a linear listing of everything. So if you have to do a search, you kind of need to go here now.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about is this assignments tab. This is in response to student feedback that we want to have, you know, just one place to see all the assignments. And we also have a feature here that if there are no assignments, so if there's a class where there are no scored activities, this tab will just be gone. Like there will just not be an assignments tab here. So that is another one of our one-off features.
Quick question on that. Sorry, the assignments tab. Do you need to go into options and make sure that each of them end up in the assignments tab for a checkpoint or scored activity like you do with all the other things on the left hand, like practice and also explorations?
No, like I haven't done anything for this other than I've made a bunch of scored activities and they automatically appeared here.
Okay, that's different than some of the other ones. So interesting. Okay. So there's no way to remove something, like say you didn't want to have something in that scored list, since it's not part of the options, it just automatically goes there because it's a score.
That is my understanding, yeah.
Okay, that might be a ticket to make that work like the others, so you can choose what gets put in there or not. And are these by dates automatically, or is there any way for instructors to sort them or authors?
So I believe, and if someone in the meeting thinks I'm wrong about this, that if these were scheduled, I think it would appear in the order of due date. So the soonest due date would appear at the top. Because I've chosen to make this totally unscheduled, it's just appearing in the order that these things appear in the curriculum and course.
Yeah, it should be by due date. I can like check into that.
Thanks, Jess. And sorry, I've got a lot of questions. Don't mean to.
No, that's fine. I think there's one more thing I wanted to show, and I also wanted to show what you know, one question at a time thing looked like. So I'm going to go down to my unicorn final exam, which, if you remember from the authoring section, had been configured to be one question at a time. One thing so I can't actually demo this very well because I haven't scheduled anything or you know, set up any assessment settings for this course. But something that was an oversight in version 28 in the new student interface is that we had not completely replicated this terms section, which obviously is problematic if students don't know, for instance, if their assessment's going to auto submit, if it's going to be timed, something, you know, of that nature. So this should be fixed now, so students have all of the relevant information before they start the scored activity like this. That was my last little one-off ticket. And then I will just demonstrate the one question at a time. So you can see here, I can see all of my questions, but I can only see one question at a time. These are all going to be marked wrong because I'm just putting random stuff in. I am getting that feedback right away. I haven't set up anything here like hints or, you know, but that all should work here. If I had set up different types of feedback, then I can go to next. I can go back, but I can't change this anymore. I would have to start a new attempt in order to actually change the answer. And I do want to point out that in this setup, you can, like, so I can click on question 4 here. I can, if I want to see future questions, see them. I just would have to specifically go and do that. And it's kind of keeping track of what my current question is. All right, that is it for my version 29 demo. I'm now going to move on. If folks have questions about this demo, now would be a good time to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to do a quick demo of activity banks. So what is an activity bank? I want to be clear. I think people use two different things. So I want to try to be kind of precise here. We have the activity bank page, and that is, yeah, I've gotten in a messed up place here, which I love doing in my demo. I have to navigate back into my course. And then under create, if I go to activity bank, this is just a centralized location for any type of activity. And so this is the activity bank page. The other thing I think people talk about with activity banks is actually the content block that appears on the curriculum page, and I'll show those in a moment. So I'm going to try to use these specific phrases so we don't get confused. Activity bank page versus activity bank content block. If we look at this, this is just a set of activities. I still have that duplicate feature that Andrew's built. It works the same exact way. Or if I want to create a new one, I can just pick this, and this works just like it does on a curriculum page. I can fill this out with learning objectives, which the learning engineering team always wants me to mention. It's really important in terms of being able to keep track of what's happening in the course to always use a learning objective. And I also should probably point out that it's been pointed out to me that my learning objectives that I do for demo courses are really bad learning objectives. So do what the learning engineering team tells you to do and not what I do. Tags, which I will show in a minute why this is important, but these are just bits of text that can be any kind of thing that you want, and you can use them for grouping together or identifying specific questions. And then the question part item here, this works exactly the same as it does for any question that you make on a curriculum page. I'm actually just not going to make a new question here just for demonstration purposes. I'm just going to leave that now that I've showed how you make a new one. I have a bunch here. I have 8 that I had already made that I filled in some learning objectives and tags. And I want to point out that I've given each of them, in addition to some of them have tags like Amanda Fave, I've also given them each a unique tag, and I'll show you in a moment why I did that. The other thing on this page I want to show is how this filter works. So this can get to be many questions, especially for large courses. It can be challenging to navigate through. So being able to filter You can filter by learning objectives. So if I pick unicorn toenail polish, I've got 3 questions with that learning objective. I can search by content. So if I want to search for anything with the word purple, then I have 2 questions that have the word purple in them. I also, if I do 2 of these at once, these and together. So if I do this and then I add in an item type, I want to see a check all that apply. This is going to show me everything that has purple and also is a check all that apply question. And we'll see that I just have one of those that meets both criteria. It has purple in the content, and it also is a check all that apply. I do have a check all that apply tag, but you don't need to do that. This just knows based on the question type what it is. And then finally, I can search by tags. So I can see everything that is an Amanda's fave. I can search for more than one. So if I want to search for I didn't actually know if I have any that match both of these, so I would have no results if I searched for both of these tags. I think that is everything that I want to show on this page. If anyone has questions about this page before I move on to how you would use activity banks on a curriculum page.
I have a question. One of the challenges we've had in authoring is that when you hit edit, you have to move at the speed of light. Otherwise, it totally loses all of your changes. Has that been fixed?
I was not noticing that.
Mark, you're on the call. I know you've run into problems in trying to edit these in the past.
Yeah,
I know
hasn't
I've
been
run into
a
it.
problem for me recently.
Not recently? Okay, well, maybe it's
Okay,
been.
yeah, I am making edits here. And I mean, is this what you were talking about? Like you would be doing this and it wouldn't let you?
Yeah, so Carol ran into a huge problem. She was trying to edit, and by the time she got to the last question, the little bar had come up, but you don't see it saying that it had timed out, and you can no longer continue to edit, and you lose all of your changes. Because you don't see the bar because it's at the top of the page. I don't know if that got fixed. Anders, you might know. Anders, you might know. Sorry.
I remember that coming up. I don't remember off the top of my head what happened with that ticket. I would have to check.
Yeah, now I just go in, I do one question, I edit, and then I hit done, and then I go to another. I don't try to.
So that might have been what was done, because these are all just one by one, like all of them are just one off. So that might have been done in response to that. That
Okay.
like if I hit done, then it's saved.
Okay,
All right,
thanks.
no problem. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a curriculum page. I will just pick one at random. Do I have something here? Oh, it's my survey. I don't want to put anything there. So I can go in here. And so I do have a bunch of questions here that are just embedded in the page. But if I want to add activity bank, I can go to bank. It's going to ask me how many questions I want in the activity bank. So if I say 3, and then I add expression, let's say I want to do this by tag, and I want to do that Amanda's fave. And I think if when we had done that, there were 6 different questions that are Amanda's fave that I put that tag on. So now I have this activity bank set up. And if I go into the preview, I can actually see, now I should have 3. Oh, I have this weird that I did make an Amanda's fave. So now I have these unicorn questions that I added because they are Amanda's fave questions. So what I'm seeing here, because there are 6 questions total in the activity bank that meet my criteria, and I put 3 here. If I were to go back, I even think if I just preview again, it's probably not going to be the same 3. Okay, in this case, maybe it is. But the point being that what the students see is going to be a random selection of the questions that match the criteria. Something else that I can do if I want to make sure that I have a specific question is I can just say 1. And then if you recall, I put a unique tag on each one. I can say, I want you to put question 2 here. And in that case, this is always going to be the same question, because it's only one question and there's only one question that I have. If I go back to my activity bank, if I search by that tag, that this is a unique tag I put on this question. So that's essentially a way of just putting a specific question on the page, but just keeping that question in the activity bank instead of making it, putting it on the specific page.
So
So
there's no way to choose random in this? I thought there was in Legacy that we could choose it to randomly pull from a pool.
yeah, so that's what I was doing the first time when I picked that Amanda's Fave tag. Like the Amanda's Fave has 6 different questions.
So it just automatically pulls randomly.
Yeah, and I had only said, okay, it has 4, not 6, but there were 3 that I put in that activity bank, so it would be randomly selecting 3 of those 4. That actually explains why I had the overlap in the questions, because I only have 4 and it's picking. But I did make a little table here just to kind of make this more clear. Let's imagine I have an activity bank that is set to have 5 questions. And then when I set up the criteria, there's actually 20 questions that meet that criteria. It's going to randomly pick 5 every time. And you know, every student is going to be seeing 5 randomly selected questions. So they'll all get different questions. But if there's exactly 5, it's going to be the same 5 questions, though in random order. But if I only had 3, say, it's only going to show 3 questions. It's not going to show like 2 blank spaces. It's going to show the same 3 questions in random order.
So if there's any number that doesn't equal what's actually in the pool, what does it do? Like if you put a 0, does it just pull them all? And if you put 6 and there's only 5 questions, does it just ignore it? I mean, how does it handle those types of?
So I don't even know if it will let you put 0. Like at that point, you wouldn't have an activity bank. But in the case where you actually are saying a larger number than meet the criteria here, in this example, I've put a 5 on the curriculum page as the number of questions, but there's only 3. In that case, it's just going to show those 3 questions in random order.
But it will show all 3.
It will show all 3.
Okay, great. Now, some of this is also on the instructor end, right? Like the student, when you grab this randomly for a student in a checkpoint, each student is getting a random difference, or is it the randomization put on at the checkpoint level in the instructor resources?
So my
You know what I
understanding
mean? Second, like if we're sitting next to each other,
you're going to get 2 different sets of questions.
regardless of what my instructor settings are.
This might be something that is due to a lack of, like, I'm not familiar with activity bank selections in the instructor interface, so that just might be something that I haven't come across. Can anyone else?
The checkpoint in general settings. It's not like the activity bank within a checkpoint. You can't get that fine-tuned. Anders?
So I'm not sure if what Amanda said was accurate. If for any reason your selection criteria cannot be satisfied, right now this is kind of a known issue. I believe it just crashes actually on the page, at least at the student delivery time, and we have a ticket to give a more informative failure message when that happens. But so.
You mean if there are 3 questions and you say 5, then it
Right,
crashes?
that is an unsatisfiable request.
Okay.
So and it fails, and at
Is it
the
a
moment
500 error?
at the moment you don't get good help for that. You sometimes instructors with the current as it is today have had to kind of carefully debug their selections by trying them one at a time and changing them slightly to see when they work. But it's definitely on our we definitely have a ticket to improve that.
Okay, and that's just in authoring. Instructors can't do this.
Does anyone in the call know if there are instructor activity bank selections?
They're not activity bank selections. Your checkpoint, you can say different things. I'd have to go look at the thing, but I don't want to hold you up. Keep moving. This is fine.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about is just like, why might you use an activity bank? And I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list. Other people might have reasons, but these are the ones that I came up with. One is to discourage or detect cheating. Obviously, if you have, because the students are seeing different sets of questions in that, you know, if you're selecting a random subset, if you have a set of students who all have the same pattern of answers, but only one of them is right, that could be an indication that a bunch of those students are cheating off of one student. This also prevents answer memorization between attempts. So a student can't just start figuring out like, oh, that was right, that was right, that was right. They might have, different, they have to kind of look at different questions across different attempts. We can encourage practice by providing variety. So you can do this on a practice page where every time they go through, they're getting different questions. Or sometimes you just have questions that maybe, and this could be on a practice or a scored page, maybe the student just doesn't connect with that, or maybe it's not a great question that most students don't really get. Maybe it's a poorly phrased question, or maybe this particular student just doesn't get this question. So this is a way within the same skill and the same learning objective, you can give them a different question that they might connect with more and actually be able to answer successfully. My fifth reason is to allow the same question to appear on multiple pages. And you could even use that use case I showed where you just have a unique identifier and one question. So you are guaranteeing the question that's going to be on that page. But if you want to have that on multiple pages and just have one place that you would edit it, then an activity bank could be a good reason to do that. And just generally to centralize your management of questions so that, and I keep saying questions, again, I mean activities, it's any type of activity, but to centralize your activity management and just have one central place where all of those things are located. All right, we just have a few more minutes. So do folks have any more questions before we wrap up?
I just have a question. I can't recall. Can you put an activity bank on a page?
What? I don't think I understand the question.
So can I just insert an activity bank so that random questions show up on a page for a student?
Yeah,
Not
that's
a
what I was
fun.
just,
Yeah.
that's what I was just showing on the curriculum page where you have an
Oh, I thought it was a checkpoint. Sorry.
No, you can do
Or
it. You can do
quiz.
it on a, oh, you mean like on a practice page? Yes.
Yeah, on a practice page. Yeah. Okay. And also just to clarify, I'm looking at the settings. There's no randomization in the instructor settings. It's just the retake mode or normal mode. Yeah. So.
All right, I will remind folks, please put in the comments if you have a vote or an idea for what our feature demo would be for next month. I will not do a feature demo if people don't put ideas. So if at least one person puts an idea, if you're the only one, I'm going to do whatever you say. And if multiple people put in ideas, then I'll see if there seems to be interest in one over the other, but I'll put everything that you list in my Qualtrics survey for future months. So please put your ideas for feature demo in the chat of this meeting. Does anyone have other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, thanks everybody. I will be hanging out for another little bit if folks want to stay on and they have more specific questions. I can hang out for a little bit, but otherwise I hope you all have a great day and thanks for joining.